Okay, now that everybody's in the room, welcome you to another day of the dojo. So, let's go ahead and get started. Facing the front of the room. Show me, right? Os. Facing sensei. Hands at our sides. Sensei, right? Os. This video is going to be all about body weight training. Let's get to it. Body weight training is when you use nothing but your own body weight to make yourself stronger. I'm going to go over some of the classics like push-ups, but I'm going to be going a little bit deeper into push-ups. For instance, I'm going to be covering 15 different types of push-ups and how you can do them differently. This is something that you have to understand your own skill, and you have to also understand where you are at your level. If the one push-up is too difficult for you, you might have to come back to this when you have more strength. That being said, let's go ahead and get into a normal push-up. Both hands are flat on the ground, shoulder width apart. My feet are going to be fully extended. Let's go ahead and do 3. Each, knee, side. Okay? Let's go ahead and get into a modified push-up. So this is where you are on your knees, your feet are together, you can walk your feet together or just keep them straight. Each, knee, side. That's your modified push-up. Okay, let's get into knuckle push-ups. Knuckle push-ups is something that you're going to have to understand if you're strong enough to do this. So, if it starts to feel uncomfortable, you might want to start learning how to do this push-up on soft surfaces and just learning how to hold your body weight. A good way to do this is just holding and seeing if you can hold your own weight. If you can hold your own weight, that's a good indicator that you can start doing this push-up. You can try practicing this in 2 ways. Once your knuckles are in place, each, knee, side. That's a knuckle push-up. Okay. Let's go ahead and jump into diamond push-ups. Diamond push-ups is when you make the diamond shape in your hands. So, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be placing that directly in front of me, and I'm going to try 3. Again, if this is too difficult, come back to it when you have more body strength. Each, knee, side. Okay, now we're going to get into clap push-ups. This is something you have to make sure that if you're going to practice, have something like a pillow beneath you, just in case you can't make it. This is again something that you need to know that you're able to do. You have to feel pretty confident about doing before you actually ever try it. Let's give 3 clap push-ups. Each, knee, side. Clap push-ups. Okay, now we're going to do chest claps. Same thing, but instead when I come up, I'm not going to clap my hands together. I'm going to push, slap my chest, go back down. This is again still something that you need to know your level for. 3 chest push-ups, or 3 chest clap push-ups. This might go in the bloopers. Each. Knee. Woo. Side. Woo. Chest clap push-ups. Okay, next one's going to be more of a stretching push-up, which they do exist. This is called a Hindu push-up. Hopefully I can do this. My feet, I'm up on the balls of And I'm going to think about moving my head forward. I never want to touch the ground. That's a Hindu push-up. Okay. Superman push-ups. The idea of a Superman push-up is when you go to come up, give it all your energy and extend your hands and feet, and then catch yourself back in a push-up position. I recommend a pillow being underneath you or having soft surfaces. Again, that you have to kind of know your limitations. Superman push-ups. Okay. Burpee push-ups are when you're standing fully up, you squat down, hands are on the ground, you're going to shoot your feet behind you into a push-up position. You're going to do a quick push-up. You shoot your feet back in, you look up, burpees. There's 2-foot burpees and 1-foot burpees. You can lift 1 foot, repeat the same process. Okay, that's for our push-up list. So, the next part about doing body weight training, now that we're done with our push-ups, is I have another category built up where I'm going to do ones that don't involve push-ups. So, these might be a little bit easier. These might involve a little bit more movement to them, where a push-up is very stationary and stays in one spot. So let's go ahead and get into some of our standing ones first. So the first one I want to target is just simple step-ups. If you have stairs at home, you can hold onto the railing while you do this. If you have, really stairs is what I would really say. Not a lot of you are going to have what I would suggest, which is a tire. I personally like tires only because, well, I have 2 of them. So let's go ahead and get into the first one. This is called a step up. And it's very, very simple. Step ups can only become more challenging by however much you want it to be. So I'm only using 1 step right now. And all I'm doing is I'm stepping up and back down. So I'll do this for about 10 counts each. Me, Tom, G, go, rope, siege, hatch, cool, shoot. So this is something that you can do adding 2 steps. So if you want to get really challenging, if you have steps that have 2, you can walk up 2, back down 2. Make sure you're holding your railing if you're going to be going backwards 2 steps. If you want to add more of a challenge, 3, 4, 5, 6, however many steps you have available to you. If you're like me and you do have a tire laying around, they're awesome too. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about still kind of goes with balance, but it's a body weight thing. So it's called the pistol squat. The pistol squat is where I try and keep this leg out. I'm going to try and drop my weight as low as I can and then come back up. So the lower to the ground you can get, keeping your foot straight up, is ideally what you want to do. So for me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and go the lowest I can. So work within your body's limits, I always say. So I'm here, and I have my foot out. I'm going to try and look forward as much as I can. I'll turn and face you guys, just because you're my favorite thing in the world. Alright. I drop, and then I come back up. And that's a pistol squat. The lower you can go, the better. Make sure that you have enough room to do that. So, the next few activities are, we're going to jump into one more standing. I lied. We're going to do jumping lunges. So, jumping lunges, I'm going to show you what a lunge looks like. So if you're standing straight up, you're going to get right into like a Zen Fujinachi, or this is called a lunge. My feet are very wide apart. My hands are going to be up. If I were to come back up and switch the feet and go into another front stance, there's a good lunge. And I always come back to center. Jumping lunges is different. Let's go for 10. So I'm going to show you how you alternate sides without coming back to center. So what that means is where my feet are apart, I don't want to come back to center. I just jump to the opposite side. My hands are going to stay up the entire time. Okay. Let's do 10. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. Good. And I didn't emphasize too much in the beginning of bending that knee through, but it's a very important thing to let that knee bend through in the back. So, let's go ahead and jump into dragon walks. Dragon walks are pretty fun once you get good at it. So, what I'm going to do is if I'm standing straight up, I'm going to walk my hands down. I'm going to walk them out. And from right here, if I'm going to move any kind of way forward, is I want my knee to almost touch either my chest or my elbow. And keep it in place, and then bring the other one up. Everything walks 1 foot at a time. So, you could eventually get to the point where you're going across your body. So, we'll probably revisit a little bit more of that in the future. The frozen V is we're going to be sitting right on our bottoms. And the idea is to bring our feet up off the ground and lean back just enough to make the letter V of our bodies. I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate. So, and you hold. I'm going to go for 5 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, go. And you sit it back down. That's the frozen V. So, last part, we're going to do mountain climbers. Mountain climbers was one of my favorites growing up. So all you gotta do is, this is a very stationary activity. My hands are here. I'm gonna lift my feet, and you just bring your knees in. And you can do that for about 30 seconds in between. So try and just do that 30 times. Okay, and that's all we have for bodyweight training. I'm Sensei Kaibash, and let's get into the workout.
Let's do story time. This story's name is One. Alright. 50,000 high blocks. A young woman who wanted to learn to defend herself sought out a martial arts teacher to teach her. She rode her bicycle to a nearby kung fu school and asked her teacher for lessons. "Are you willing to practice?" the teacher asked. "Of course," said the young woman. "Good," said the teacher. Your first task is to learn to punch. Do it like this." He showed the young woman how to do a basic first punch. He worked with her until the technique was correct. Then he stepped off the training floor. "I want you to practice this 50,000 times. When you have finished, let me know." The young woman watched her teacher leave. 50,000 times? That would take her days. When the teacher was out of sight, she snuck out of the door, onto her bike, and rode down the street. So, the teacher asked her to do 50,000 punches. Instead of even trying, she realized that was a good amount of work and rode away. Let's follow her a little bit more into the story and see where this goes. After a short ride, she rode and saw a taekwondo school. She parked her bike and went inside. She was asked the teacher, "Will you teach me?" The teacher replied, "Are you willing to practice?" "Of course," said the young woman. "Good," said the teacher. "Your first task is to learn the kick. Do it like this." She showed the young woman a basic front kick and worked with her until the technique was correct, then stepped off the training floor. I want you to practice this kick 50,000 times. When you have finished, let me know. The young woman thought to herself, perhaps she might try and do the 50,000 times. She counted 10, 20, 50, 100, and after the 100th kick, she decided that she would never be able to do 1,000 kicks, much less 50,000. She snuck off the training floor and went onto her bike. So, in this part of the story, she's officially tried to give it a try. She did about 100, and she said, 1,000's a lot of work. 50,000 would be a lot of work. So, the first teachers asked her to do punches, and the second teachers asked her to do kicks. The second teachers asked her to do kicks, and so far she's not understanding the lesson. Let's continue on with our story a little bit further and see where this takes us. After a short ride, she came across a karate school. Maybe this teacher would teach her how to fight without so much repetition. She parked her bike, went inside, and asked the teacher to teach her. "Are you willing to practice?" the teacher asked. "Of course," said the young woman. "Good," said the teacher. "Your first task is to learn how to block. Do it like this." She showed the woman a basic high block, and she worked with her until the technique was correct. When he stepped off the training mats, "I want you to practice this block 50,000 times. When you have finished, let me know." The young woman was disappointed. The teacher was just like the others. When she really wanted to learn how to defend herself so she could begin to practice the block, she counted. She did it 100 times. She did it 200 times. She done it 300 times, and she did it 400 times. She was positive she understood the technique. She went to the teacher and said, "I am ready to learn something new." "Good," said the teacher. "Have you done the high block 50,000 times?" "Yes," the young woman lied. "Fine," said the teacher. "Come with me." She brought the young woman to a beautifully made weapon rack. The young woman looked at the handcrafted tonfas, nunchaku, and bow. "This is more like it," the young woman thought to herself. "I'd love to learn how to handle one of these fine weapons." "Reach for the top shelf on the top of the rack," said the teacher. "On the shelf you will find a bow, a very long staff. We will need it for your next lesson." The young one reached to the top of the shelf. It was far above her head. Standing on her very tippy toe, she felt around until she felt the bow with her very fingertips of her fingers. She rolled it forward very carefully, but it rolled over the front lip of her fingers and off the shelf and slid through her fingers and dropped. She scrambled to catch it, but it fell, hitting her squarely on the top of her head. "That's strange," said the teachers. "Most people after 50,000 high blocks would have blocked that automatically." The young woman felt her ears grow red with embarrassment. "I didn't exactly finish the 50,000 high block," she said. "I didn't think so," said the teacher. He picked up the bow from the floor, replaced it back on the shelf, and walked off the training floor. The young woman rubbed the growing knot on her head and began doing high blocks. So, in this story, we have 3 separate dojos we went to. The first dojo we went to, we were asked to do just your basic punch. So, they went in and the teacher performed a very easy punch. Taught her how to roll the fingers and tighten the fist. And punch straight to the center of the body. She was told to do this 50,000 times. Instead of even trying, the woman decided that that was a little too much work. So instead, she decided that she was just going to wait till the teacher was out of sight and snuck right outside the door. At this point, she wanted to find somebody who was just willing to teach her all these techniques without actually putting a lot of work into it. So she came across a Taekwondo school, and they started to talk about kicks. So the teacher said, "I'm going to show you how to do a basic front kick." From here, the teacher showed her how to do a kick. She said, "I need you to practice that 50,000 times. So the woman started to practice. She did it 400 times, And then she decided at that point that she no longer wanted to do any more practicing on a kick that was going to be really difficult to do 1,000. And she said 50,000 would be way too difficult. She couldn't do it. Finally, in the last part of our story, the woman gets to a karate teacher in a dojo, and the teacher tries to teach her how to do blocks. So the teacher goes over the lesson with her and says, come across belly, raise your hand high above the head, make sure you're protecting your head. The teacher works with her until the technique's correct. Once she has it, she's supposed to practice it 50,000 times. So this time, she does the technique over and over again until she got to 400. And she says, I really understand this. I've done this 400 times. I really, really know how to do this. I don't want to practice it 50,000. So she goes to her teacher and lies. The lie ends up resulting in her getting hit in the head with a staff that was too tall for her to reach. The teacher then points out anyone who had done something 50,000 times probably could do it automatically. I want to talk to you guys about muscle memory. I want to talk about something you might do every single day. 50,000 probably seems like a lot. And it is a big number. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a good sized number. If I told you that you probably wrote your name 50,000 times from the time you start kindergarten to the time you graduate high school, that would be an understatement. You probably write a lot more than that. But let's talk about writing your name. You do that every time you get a piece of paper, and you need to make sure that you get credit for it. So you write your name. You don't think about it as much as when you first started writing it. For those of you who are first starting to write your name, you're doing it more and more. But by the time you're probably in 5th grade, you just write your name. You don't even think about it. It's something you've done so many times. Probably 50,000 times by the time you're from kindergarten to 5th grade. Same thing with walking, putting on your shoes every single morning. There's 365 days in a year, and at least as long as you put shoes on at least once, you'll eventually get to a day that you put them on like 10,000 times. What I'm really trying to talk to you about, in karate, everything's done to teach muscle memory. If I tell you to do something a lot of times or a lot, it's because I want to make sure that your body knows it, not just your brain. So I might ask you to do the same kata probably 10 times before we move on to the next one, and it might seem like a big number, but at least when you do it that 10th time, you're going to feel real confident that you didn't have to think about it, you just did it. So that's our story today. I can't wait to do more stories. We're probably going to find more beautiful places just like this to get you guys some more stories just like this. As is for today, I'm Sensei Gaidash, and thank you for joining me today.
So the last thing I want to do with you guys before I let you go is I want to do a cool down. And what that looks like is, you guessed it, it's going to be dealing with balancing. I'm going to be crossing my feet, taking this hand, I'm going to do a big circle into my body, and a big circle into my body, and I'm going to pull my hands up. I'm going to take some deep breaths. I'm going to count to 3 once I take a deep breath to release it. Each, ni, san. I'm going to do this one more time. Each, ni, san. I'm going to be extending my arms right above my head. I want them as much behind my ears as I can. Ready? Take a deep breath in. Each, ni, san. One more. Each, ni, san. I bring my hands in. I'm going to extend them forward. Take a deep breath in. Each, ni, san. Again. Each, ni, san. From here, I can call ski, or I might have somebody that's appointed my senpai. If I appoint somebody my senpai, I'll explain that more later. It means that they're allowed to do this. So if I call ski, my feet are together, my hands are at my sides, and I'm going to tell us to point to the showman. The showman is the very front of the room, so it's always important to begin here. Showman, you ready? Boom. Then we turn to sensei. Sensei, you ready? Boom. If I have teachers in the room, I'm going to be turning to them especially. They are very important, and you should be respecting them as well, just like they should be bowing back. Then we turn to our teacher, and after we're done, I would turn to you. So, student, you ready? Boom. And that's how I'd end class. So, I hope you learned a lot from our first day. There's a lot more videos to come from this, and I'm going to keep adding more and more on. So until then, stay safe. Make sure you wear your mask if you're in public.